Good evening and welcome to my kitchen. I'm Esther and I run the blog thisfarmhouselife.com, and tonight I am going to be doing some work in my kitchen, and I thought I would just invite you to observe, come along. I don't really know how much talking I'm going to do. This is kind of my time today to relax. My children are in bed and the house is quiet, and so I wanted to get a few things done in the kitchen. And I love working with bread dough and doing just different things, and it helps me to relax, and it's especially enjoyable when I don't have children to keep an eye on and worry what they're getting into. So I thought I would just invite you to come along and see what we are going to be doing. I know I'm going to be mixing up some sourdough bread. It will sit all night, and then in the morning I will work it out into loaves and to bake it. This seems to work really good because sourdough bread sometimes has to sit for quite a while to rise and get where it's ready to be worked out into loaves. So I like to do it at night, and then it kind of does its work while I sleep, and then I can get up and work them out in the morning. I would love to know if there are other people out there that after your children are in bed or your long day is done at work, if you like to relax doing kitchen things. This is something that I don't do real often, but every now and then I find it very relaxing. And so today was just one of those days I was like, that is what I want to do, and I thought I would just bring you along. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, I don't know how much talking I'll do. I'll probably be talking a little bit and explaining some. But you're welcome to grab a cup of coffee or tea and just enjoy. So this sourdough starter, I don't know, I can't really tip it up. Hopefully you can kind of get a little bit of a view. It's very active, it's very bubbly. I fed it earlier today, and then I fed it probably, well, it was while my supper was baking. So it's very active. I wanted it to be active and ready to use. If you're new to sourdough, there are all kinds of methods out there, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that you can either make it very complicated or you can make it very easy. And I like the low stress, so I don't make my sourdough stuff very difficult. There are some people out there that will want to weigh water and weigh flour. Honestly, I just kind of dump. There are some times when I'm like, oh, I need about this much, and I may measure out some flour and kind of have an idea how much water, but there are times when I literally just scoop flour into my starter and hold it under the water and just till I think it's right. So I think, in my opinion, sourdough is very forgiving. I've had really good success with it, and I haven't done anything fancy, and I've had times when I haven't always fed it regularly, or I could tell it's kind of going rancid, and I've saved it, and so some of that maybe I'll share in another video of my experience. But if you are wanting to get into sourdough and you're thinking it's very complicated and you don't have a lot of time, I would encourage you to just go ahead and try it, because it doesn't have to be complicated. And I know there are people out there that think you have to have all this fancy equipment. You don't. You can just do it simple, and it can fit into your lifestyle the way that you want it to. So I'm going to make my bread, and then I'll have more starter here than what I can use in my bread. So I will probably make a few other things. I have a couple other things I want to do with it. So the other thing that I see a lot is people will have these discards. And a discard would be if you have 2 cups of starter, they often tell you to throw away half of it or throw away some, and then you feed the rest to keep it going. I don't like to throw away stuff, and so I try to find ways to use sourdough, and there are a lot of recipes out there that you can use to use up your, what they would consider a discard. And do one more here. And so that's what I prefer. I don't, my clock's going off. I think it sounds very wasteful to just throw away so much. You waste a lot of flour that way. And so I like to find other ways to use it. And there's all kinds of things you can make, almost anything you can imagine, as far as, you know, baking or different things. There's so many ways to use it. See, I still have a lot left, and all the bubbles and everything. This is a really nice active starter. Some of this I will probably do a little bit in a jar to go back in the fridge to save my starter, but I have some other things I think I'm going to do with that. Sourdough bread is you don't have to heat any water up and try to get it just the right temperature. I have made regular yeast bread, and that is one thing you'll have to make sure you have yeast, and you have to be able to heat water. And this is so nice to do sourdough because I don't have to worry about any of that. I don't use yeast, and the water temperature, I just use cold water, and I think it makes it a lot easier. I also like this bread. In the recipe that I use, there's no refined sugar. This is honey that I'm putting in here. And so I feel like between that and the fermenting and everything that it goes through, it's just really nice to know that you're giving your kids something that's wholesome, and you know, it's good for them. And my children are big bread eaters. They love bread. Alright, I don't think you can see this, but I have a 5-gallon bucket down here. Let me dry this. I store my flour in a 5-gallon bucket. I like to get it, probably sometimes I buy it by like 20 pounds at a time. This last time I bought 50 pounds. And I am on my last, probably down to about 20 pounds. tall. But I got this bucket at Tractor Supply, and it's like food safe. And I love storing things in 5-gallon buckets. It's just airtight and mouse proof and all of those good things. Alright, we're gonna just get my KitchenAid here going. And I have the dough hook on there, and I'm just gonna let her work her magic. While that's going, I hope it's not too annoying to hear me. While that's working over there, I'm gonna get some chocolate whoopie pies or gobs, wherever you're from, whatever you call them. Sandwich cookies. I'm gonna get a batch of those started. And they will sit also overnight, and then in the morning I'll finish them up and bake them and do all that. combined my starter, flour, some milk that will be sour because of the sourdough aiding in that, and a little bit of water. And I'll just let this ferment overnight. I may end up sticking it in the fridge, but for now, it can just sit right here on the counter. I've discovered I have some plates that fit these bowls just perfect, so it makes it nice to use. So I'll just shove that back there. We're ready for some more flour here. Now I still have quite a bit of this discard left, and I have a little boy who earlier, when I was feeding the sourdough starter, he was wanting to get out the waffle iron. So he loves waffles and pancakes, probably because of the syrup. But I think I might do up some waffles for tomorrow and let those ferment overnight. So I think that's what I'm going to do with some of the rest of this. Okay, my bread has proofed for about 20 minutes, I think. I kind of forgot to look at the time, but we're going to call it that. And so I'm going to add my salt and then be able to knead it. One thing I have started to do since I've gotten this mixer, because I used to do my bread all by hand, and so once I started getting this, I've kind of had to learn a few things, but I have learned to add my salt and turn it on for a couple, just for a short time. And it helps mix that salt right in. Give it a minute to kind of get off of there. I'm going to wash my counter while that's going on. This will be for those waffles that I talked about earlier. And after doing all of that, I've done the bread, got the gobs, or whoopie pies, fermenting, and I have waffle batter, and I still have some left. So we have to come up with something to do with those. With that. Okay, well, I am going to knead my bread, and that takes about 9 minutes. And then I will try to get back with you guys, and we'll finish doing the waffles and see what I come up with for the rest of this. So, see you in a few minutes. Alright, I have kneaded my bread, and I'm ready to put it in my bowl. And whatever oil I have, I've used coconut oil before, or even just sprayed it with like pan spray. Tonight I'm using olive oil. I'm just going to make sure that the bowl is coated with that. And I like to leave a little extra in the bottom. And when I put this in, I will put it in, and I don't know if you can see this, but then I kind of swirl it around and flip it so the top has oil on. And then I will just cover this, and this will rise all night and be ready to work out into bread tomorrow. Last time I did some cinnamon rolls with it. So it's really a nice way to do bread if you can do it kind of in 2 different steps, 2 different days. Especially if you're short on time. So there's that. We'll make sure that that gets covered. Let me wash my hands. Put a little bit of flour in with this starter and do just a few things to it to get enough for waffles or pancakes tomorrow. Get this. It's kind of thick. That's what I want. I don't know if you can see that that's really thick. I'm probably going to leave it like that for tonight. Okay, I wanted to show you this real quick before I close off. This is my starter that I'm going to put in the fridge, and I don't know if you can see how thick it is. I like to do a thicker starter. It's just something I prefer. So this is going to go in the fridge, and then I have just a little bit left. It's probably between maybe 1.5 cups to 2 cups. So I'm going to try to find something to do with that. But thanks so much for hanging out with me. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed chatting with you all. And I really hope that you have a good evening, and if you like this, would you please leave me a comment letting me know that you like this type of content, and like the video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time. Good night.